Skyler Roth-MacDonald is here today. How you doing, Skyler?
Hey, I'm good, Matt. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. So
Good.
I am so excited to chat with you and talk to you about what you're doing. You reached out. I'm so happy. You are doing something great. You're planning on running across the country, pretty much tip to tip. It's pretty amazing. Tell us about it. How'd you get into this?
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be on. I'm stoked to talk to you as well. Um, and yeah, more importantly, the run is to raise awareness for mental health and um, more specifically, like suicide prevention. That's that really hits home to me. I've experienced a lot of those hardships in my life. So I'm blessed enough to have the legs and the body to go coast to coast, and I think doing that for a good cause is um, just ties together perfectly. So that's the main mission, is to raise funds for the Canadian Mental Health Association and raise awareness, and then the physical feat is a big bonus too for the athletic resume.
Yeah, 100%. And I want to get more into that later about how you're going to go about that and your training and stuff. We chatted a little bit that before we started the podcast, but maybe we could dive into kind of your story and what led you into this path of mental health and um, yeah, spreading awareness.
For sure. Um, so I think and I think anyone can attest to this. We all have our mental health struggles. I look at it as a massive as a spectrum. Um,
For sure.
and if you don't maybe have depression, for example, or if you haven't gone through like suicidal thoughts, you you likely know someone very close to you, a loved one that does go through that. So it does affect all of us. Um, and so that's why, again, why I think this is um, a good platform um, to raise awareness for, like the Cross Canada Run. The mental health there is a no-brainer. So my story is, uh, I grew up in Central Alberta, primarily Red Deer, my whole life.
I don't mean
Um,
to cut you off, Skylar, but you're cutting out a little bit. When you move, I just want to make
oh,
you aware that.
sounds good. Is this better? I'll stop moving. Better?
Yeah, yeah. It
Cool.
seems like okay, good.
All right, I'll stop
Cool.
moving. So growing up in Central Alberta, Red Deer, which is a city of like 100,000 people, in between, right in the middle of Edmonton and Calgary, and Red Deer's pretty, like blue collar town, like kind of small town vibes, but it's kind of a um, rough place to grow up in a sense. Pretty high crime rate, and you're just exposed to I don't know, a lot of you're not exposed to a lot of positive opportunities I didn't find, and um, it affected a lot of kids. Like I know in high school, I know 8 kids personally that took their life. Um, so it affects everyone everywhere. But I found Red Deer. Um, it was wild, yeah. In a
So
four
you
year
personally
span,
knew 8 kids that committed suicide.
yeah. Just in high school, and like kids that might have been in my class, kids that like my grad date's brother, um, David Keller. He took his life, rest in peace. And my best friend Eli, who's like a brother, he took his life. And I yeah, there's a bunch. I don't know if their families want me to say their names, so I'm just
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
that. But yeah, it hit a lot of people hard, and it's hard to get through that. In 2012, this was before I was in high school, and this was my first. I would say this was my first taste of
I don't
depression.
mean to cut you off again, but are you able to set your? Do you have a laptop? You're able to set it down or something like that, maybe on a table.
How's this? How's that?
Good, good. It
All
was like
right.
it seemed like okay. There we go. Yes, very good.
All right. Okay. So I would say depression for me
hit when I was in 7th grade. That's when we lost my friend Josh to suicide. And yeah,
Right.
we were 12 years old. Um, and so that was kind of the first time we had to navigate through like really dark and tough times. Um,
So, you guys were good friends, and was there any signs leading up to this? Like, did you have any? Um,
Josh. So when he was 12, yeah, he lost his mom to suicide. So you could tell that Josh was going through he experienced a lot of traumatic events. But at 12 years old, you would never think a 12-year-old would take his life. So we never, I guess, to answer your question in terms of signs of suicide, no. Um, but you could tell that he's been through a lot of hard times, and our soccer community, and I know the school community rallied around to help him because we were aware of what he had gone through. So, but yeah, no signs, um, which I find pretty disturbing. Like you just never know, right? Um,
yeah.
he took his life after school. Um, I remember it was Wednesday because we had soccer practice and we were all wondering why Josh wasn't there. Um, and then
Wow.
this was about 2 weeks before our team was going to England, and we'd fundraised for like a year. And so I just remember parents and our coach were kind of like in and out of the gym. Like you could tell something was wrong, and we were, just 12-year-old kids. We thought like maybe our trip was getting canceled or something, worst case scenario. Um, and, our coach had our parents tell us individually, like at home. And yeah, at that age, like you don't, a lot of the kids I don't even think knew what suicide meant. Um,
Yeah.
so that was tough. And that's kind of when things that just they're changing. I think for a kid that age with such an underdeveloped brain, when you're thrown news like that, your brain literally doesn't know how to process that. And
Yeah.
for me, that I definitely had issues with that down the road, mostly in high school, which we can definitely chat about as well. So
Right. So how does that kind of play out for you? Like, I imagine, like, you know, I lost someone to suicide when I was 20, and it was horrible. And I still feel like you said, like I was underdeveloped. Like I'm 25 now, so it's like, but at least I had like a little bit of perspective on life. Like, what was that like in like grade 7, grade 8, grade 9? Like, what sort of thoughts, what sort of mental state did you find yourself in around that time?
um, yeah, no, it's tough. I just have to kind of put myself back, that far back. Um, I think the toughest thing was like you would just expect him, like I suppose it's the same as an adult. Like you just expect to see them like at soccer practice the next day, or like you're going to
Yeah.
call, you're going to go to their house and knock on the door and ask if they want to play. Like that was weird, and it took a long time to like kind of accept that they're not going to be here anymore. Um, but you also feel like super guilty. Like I felt super guilty, at least. And I think that's pretty normal. You think of things you could have done better, ways you could have been a better friend. Um, you just play back a whole bunch of scenarios where, um, yeah, maybe you could have helped keep them here. Now I realize that more often than not, their mind is made up. Um,
Yeah.
and you're not gonna get anywhere replaying those scenarios where the coulda, shoulda, woulda. Um, Looking back, I know I was a good friend with Josh, and Josh was a great friend to me, and that's what matters. And our positive memories is what I take going forward. But yeah, it's a tough again at that age. You honestly, you can't think of how to get better. You can't think of what your options are. Like you don't even know. Like now I can say like, okay, go to see a therapist, exercise, go to the doctor, like go to the mental health unit. You realize you have when you're older what the resources are, but like you honestly don't even know what to do. Like you don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know what depression is. You don't know what that feeling is. Like you you just know that you feel like shit. And yeah, like it would get to the point where like I would be 13 years old, like from all that guilt, and like I'm wanting to take my life.
Yeah.
And it takes a long time to get over that. And if I'm still not, completely over it. Like, um, but and then I guess the best way to explain it is my experience with losing friends to suicide is, Josh took his life in 2009, and then, each day gets easier. But then in 2012, like my best friend Eli, like best friend, takes his life, and it just like rips that scab off again. And you
Yeah.
ask yourself the same questions, like, okay, am I a shitty friend? Like I had two best friends kill themselves. Like,
Yeah.
wow, am I a good person? So, and at 16, you're a lot. I mean, I know it's only a few years older than 12, but it's, everyone I'm sure will agree that you're a lot different in maturity. You're a lot different mentally. So that's where like when I was 16, like I definitely didn't talk about it. Just kind of swept it under the carpet, so to speak,
Yeah.
and like and I would say, yeah, just heavily turned to alcohol and drugs on the weekends. And
Yeah.
um, yeah, and that's obviously not a good way to do it, but I think that's a way that a lot of people do go. And that's the way I went.
With the booze and stuff, was that like an escape from the feelings that you had?
Yeah. I also think like that was it was just kind of like what my friends were doing. And you just want
Yeah.
to do what your friends do, and you want to, make your friends happy. um I don't want to be a shitty friend. um
Right.
and then yeah, like I mean and at that time, especially growing up in Red Deer where there's not an awful lot of things to do, um yeah, that just becomes the norm. You look forward to it. That's all you look forward to. You just get blackout, and yeah, you just keep avoiding like the whole reason why you're doing it.
Right.
And that comes back to bite you in the ass.
Yeah. I think that like we said, coulda, shoulda, woulda. I think that's like part of the grieving process, and like you have to go through it. But yeah, it's kind of like you're kind of stuck in that mindset. I mean, it's like almost like you run through every scenario of what I could have done or should have done, or if I just did this, if I just did that, maybe something would have been different.
Yeah, I think that's normal too. But yeah, I think you nailed it. It's part of the grieving process. Um, you know, I um I look at my friends. I appreciate my friendships a lot more now, going through losing friends, and I try to be a better friend. Um, so you do take that. I mean, I would never like, there's silver linings to everything, no matter how shitty they are. And,
Yeah.
I feel like I can take from this, like being a better friend, and, you know, and giving any relationship I have my 100%, because
I
yeah, you
seen a
cannot
quote.
promise anytime.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. I seen a quote the other day. It was my heart's been broken, but my lens has been cleared.
Yeah, no,
Just
I
meaning
would
that
definitely resonate with that.
it gives you a new perspective on life for sure. A new
Oh, that's a good
appreciation of
one.
life too.
Yeah, that's very true. When you go through all these shitty times, it's pretty cliche. Everyone's heard it. Life's ups and downs, and it's so true. Um, if you can get through shitty times, like life will reward you. It will.
Yeah.
So life is great. I agree.
So how did it go? So you lose the second friend and then you end up partying a lot. Where does it kind of go from there?
Yeah. So I would have been in grade 10 when Eli took his life, and less than a month later, another classmate, he took his life. So it was like a community that's mourning Eli's, and then there's a lot of the same crowd is mourning, Dylan's death. So that happened as well. A few months later, there's just another suicide, like, Kale, another popular dude. He took his life. So it's like you're going to the booze right away. You're going to the partying right away. And it's just like, there's just waves of suicide. So it's just like a revolving door of like mourning and like grief.
Yeah.
And it was crazy. Like it felt to me looking back at those times, it was just like every few months, like there was someone you knew that like took their life. So it certainly wasn't just me, which is the sad thing. There was, I think, a lot of people that turned to that. A lot of great people took their life, and a lot of people missed them and didn't know, and just being young kids too, they didn't know how to deal with it. So that kind of went on until like 12, like that went on until, it's funny you asked that, because there's a distinct like turning point for me. There was a night in March, a Friday night in March of 2016. So
5 years ago tonight. I'm just kidding.
like very close to, I was seeing the Facebook memories like a couple weeks ago. And I just remember my group of friends and we were at a college res party, and just being ridiculous. Like it was like Project X, like just ridiculous. And I just remember being so embarrassed of like myself and, my group of friends. And the next day, I just remember I was so hungover, but I was just so disappointed. Like I couldn't even look myself in the mirror. And I was just so depressed and suicidal, and just felt like this, the previous 4 years of constantly drinking and partying, it was just, it took its toll, and I just felt like a failure. I felt like I wasn't getting anywhere. I felt like, everyone else had their shit together but me. And so, there's me, I'm overweight. I think I was 220 pounds, and that's just straight from drinking.
How much do you weigh right now?
Right now I'm about 167. I'm trying to get to 175 for the run. But
so 50
anyways,
pounds heavier than your current weight.
Yeah.
Right
Just super unhappy or unhealthy physically and mentally. And partying wasn't even doing it for me anymore. So I felt like I had no escape, and really nothing to live for. So I remember I just took my car to the mountains, and I just remember it was kind of like a foggy morning, and like I had my mind up that I was going to take my life. Like there was no doubt. There was no, I was just done. And, I hopped in the car, went to the mountains, about 2.5 hour drive from Red Deer. And the whole way I'm driving there, it's almost like it wasn't me telling myself to do it. It was like a monster sitting in like the passenger seat. And that's what I look at depression as, is like a monster that just like takes control of you. And, I get to the mountain and I'm climbing up or hiking up, and, my plan was just jump off top, and, you know, just instant and quick, and got caught in a snowstorm on the way up, like to the point where it was like you're in a snow globe and like you can't see like anything, and you can't see the trail in front of you. And so I just sat down, and it was the craziest thing. Like, I can't explain it. Like, I'm not a religious person, um, but you know, it was like someone was talking to me, and I was just sitting on this boulder and thinking about how I can change my life and things I can do to get out of this mess that I felt caught in. And it just felt like an instant, like a new book started to be written, as cheesy as that sounds. And the snowstorm just like went away, and like everything became visible again. And yeah, that day has set the tone for the last 5 years.
Wow.
You know, so that point I committed my life to I committed my life to the mountains. Like, I felt so saved. Like, I went there as someone who had no idea like about hiking or anything. Like, I just played soccer. That's all I knew. And I'm grateful that that snowstorm came, because I can 100% tell you I wouldn't be here today. And since then, you know, I made it my goal a few weeks later. I said, you know, I was 19 at the time, almost turning 20. And it was my goal to do 100 mountains before I was 25. And so I turned 25 in May, and I'm 2 mountains away. So I'm 98. I'm at 98
Wow.
mountains. And so that's kind of when I got into goal setting and, you know, physical activity, and realizing like the power of nature and the power of exercise and the power of setting goals. And yeah, that day changed my life. It got me to here today. You know, if that day allowed me to set the goal for, you know, to get 100 mountains before I'm 25, and in pursuit of that goal, it allowed me to make other goals, you know, getting into ultra running and eventually leading to this cross Canada run. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I just feel very blessed, feel very lucky for that day.
That's amazing, man. That's like, times like that make you think about like, what are the chances that that snowstorm comes at that time? You were there at that time. It's a 2-hour drive. It happens while you're walking up. You go through what you go through, and then it clears up. It's like, it's pretty wild how things work out sometimes.
Yeah, I think about that. I think about that every week for sure. Like, yeah, it was a snowstorm for about 15 minutes, and no one else on the mountain. And it's a pretty popular hike. Like, you know, since then I've done it a few times, and every time I go and do it, I feel like I have that special bond with that mountain. Because honestly,
Right.
I owe my life to it.
Yeah. That's amazing, man. So you start setting goals from there, and like, how does your life start to turn? What sort of things you start to do, kind of on a day to day?
So because doing the mountains and it being 2.5 hours away, like right away, I stopped partying and drinking, because you have to get up at like 4 or 5 a.m. To get out to the mountains. So right away, I started losing weight because I wasn't drinking. I was burning calories instead of consuming like empty calories. So, you know, when that happens, like you do start to get more confident. You start to see like a progression in your physical ability and being a competitive person. Like, you know, I never thought running could get competitive, but I've never been so competitive in my life than I am with myself. So yeah, seeing that progression, you always ask like, hey, what can I do now? Like, can I do, you know, how fast can I do this mountain? Can I do 2 mountains in a day? So I just jam packed my weekends. I just lived for the weekends to getting to the mountains instead of, you know, going to the bar. and that made I lost that 60 pounds. I actually ended up getting down to like 155 and lost that in less than 8 weeks, man. Like
Wow.
it,
You're just going.
it was just replacing the drinking with physical activity, and you're not ordering your crazy hangover meals, on the Sunday or the Saturday. Like
Yeah.
you're
Large
you're
peach on
going out.
Saturday night and huge
Totally,
brunch the next
man.
morning.
You do a massive hike and okay, to be fair, like sometimes, yeah, you do want a big burger after, which is fine. But you're more mindful with for me, it turned into like what I eat is fuel for hikes. So I looked at food completely differently.
Right.
And just turned healthier mentally and physically.
So you turned like right away, that was your mission every weekend, was just go to as many mountains as you can.
Like life changed right there. Like I don't even, couldn't tell you the last time I even went to a party. Like, yeah, after that, I hadn't gone to a party for I think like a year at least.
Oh, wow.
And I think if I did go to a party, it would have been like as a designated driver. Like it just lost complete interest.
Okay. Wow. And then as far as your working life, I think you said you were your marketing manager.
Yeah. So another thing that's funny, I guess, like at the time I was in college to get my education degree, my kinesiology degree. There's a combined program, and I couldn't play soccer anymore because I had accumulated like too many concussions. So for me, that was kind of why I went to college, to be honest with you, was to play soccer first and then get an education second. And just, and thought, being a phys ed teacher would be cool because I am passionate about physical activity. And I felt like that was one of the only options for me. So hopped into that and then realized like I'm not passionate about it. And for me, life's too short to do anything that you're not passionate about. So stopped doing that and kind of felt like a dirtbag in the mountains for a bit. Like I would just be working like odd end, like retail jobs or, construction jobs in the summer just to get by. But like my main mission was, to get to the mountains and progress, in what I'm doing out there. So just being out in the mountains, I got to take, I'm just taking gorgeous photos on my iPhone. Like it's just, you don't even edit them. It's just the mountains are gorgeous. So you post that, and being all I was doing was hiking and, running and stuff. I guess my social media just, was covered in mountains. And a lot of people just started reaching out saying like, you're taking good photos and, how much do you charge? And, companies were, wanting to, collab or send me stuff. And I thought that was really cool at the time. And I'm just like, honestly, like I just take photos. Like these mountains they do the work. Like anyone can take these photos. So anyways, enough people had told me like I should maybe pursue photography. And I did that, and I ended up getting a job, like a full-time position with an agency in Red Deer. And then I moved to Calgary in June and got a full-time position doing that as well. And then like I was telling you before the show, the last 3 months leading up to the run, I stepped aside from the marketing side of things just to focus on this run. But yeah, it's just funny how life, what I always think about that day on that mountain and how life has just sprouted from that, career wise, passion wise. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah. And then even like leading into what you're doing now. And I think it's like interesting how, like you said, like you would just do whatever job you needed to do. And then you had this mission of going to the mountain. And it was not even like, it sounds like it was 100. You want to do 100 before you're 25, but it sounds like that's just like a number. But I don't know. It's interesting sometimes, like you have this inspiration to do something and it leads into like something else, but you just have this overwhelming feeling of like, I need to do this,
Yeah. just being like a competitive person. I know for that goal, for example, like I thought 100 just seems like a big number. And I realized that if I set a goal like that, that means a lot of time in the mountains. Like for me, I need goals to kind of keep me accountable and give me that motive. Like, um, you need to do a lot of mountains to get to 100. So you need to spend a lot of days. You need to dedicate a lot of your life to the mountains to get that goal completed. So in a way, I knew that a lot. I was guessing that life would sprout in other ways as well, just being in the mountains and being in that environment. Yeah, it's crazy. You go on these hikes, and a lot of people like don't realize like you're not on your screen for sometimes 12 hours a day. Like,
Yeah.
when else does that happen? And I
Yeah.
don't think that's like a coincidence, like why we feel like mentally recharged and less stressed or less anxious or less depressed after you go out. You don't even have to go to the mountains to do it, just going for walks or, going for jogs, just getting out and moving. It's crazy what a difference it makes to you.
Literally just go around and walk around your backyard for 10 minutes. You'll feel better after.
Yeah. And I just kind of I'm always thinking of ideas, and because I want people to like understand what I'm feeling. Like a lot of people look at me like I'm crazy, and like you go for a run and like you're feeling energized for the day. Like, shouldn't you be tired? It's like, you'd think so, but like, just trust me. And I often get like the eye roll from my friends or, so I was thinking like, how can I like make kind of like a fun way to get people moving? And so for April, I put together this challenge. And I was thinking of like, okay, I want to make it so like my grandmother can do it. And then like my buddies who are training for like 100K runs can do it. And everyone can like progress. So, it's walking, jogging, or running. There's 25 challenges in the month of April, but yeah, like you don't need to be like, basically what I'm saying is you don't need to be like a super fast ultra distance runner to reap those benefits. The mental health improvement that you get from these things. Like you can take your dog for a walk for 30 minutes and you'll notice like instantly your whole day will be better if that's how you start your day. So that's kind of the premise of this challenge, to get people moving, setting the tone for their day and that consistency, and hopefully they see benefits and stick with it going forward. So because yeah, if I think if exercise came in a pill form, like it would be the best sold thing on the market.
100%, man. And too, like, nature is a huge part of it too. This is 100% what I've done to kind of like, I went on a similar path just with the outdoors, being outdoors, with like the grieving I went through, where I just started doing it right away, and I still do it every day. But like, after like I lost someone to suicide, it was like I would go out for hikes for like 3-4 hours, or like an hour that's the least, and like 4 hours or maybe even 5. Like it would just be like I would go out there, and that was my time to like work through what was going on in my mind. Like, wouldn't look at the screen, and I was just like I always felt better, like a little bit better after, even if I was at like a 10 of feeling like absolute, like you don't even know how you're going to get through the day. I would feel a little bit better when I came back. And something I still do to this day. It's not as long, I try to go for at least an hour, but even if it's a half hour, it's still 15 minutes is still good, right?
Yeah.
And it's getting out in nature. And like we were talking about before, like I'm a personal trainer too, so I work out like 5 or 6 days a week usually. But I find like working out, there's huge benefit, but I find like it's like on another level just getting outdoors.
Yeah. Yeah, so with the physical training too, like I still see a massive benefit. Sorry, like the weight training, strength training in the gym type setting. I do see a good like improvement with that as well. But I was reading there was like a statistic, and it was like being around like the greenery and like trees and that lowers your cortisol like X amount, like X percent. which cortisol is, is your stress hormone. So you're literally less stressed, like walking around trees and green. And it's like, that's proven. And that's like, and people, and yeah, it's just like, go and do it. It's free.
Yeah.
Anyone can do it. So
100%. I mean, there's vitamin D, and I believe there's like even a little bit of like dopamine / serotonin for being out there too. It's like, just if you think about humans' natural habitat, like that's it, right? Reading this book right now called Lost Connections. He talks a lot about that. It's like we're basically a species that's been removed from our natural habitat. There's a reason why you feel great when you hang out there.
Is that Yuval Hari, or what's his name? Johan Hari?
Yeah.
That's a great book.
It is really great.
I think recommend that to anyone.
100%. I think about that kind of stuff a lot, though. Like, what, we're just kind of like, and we're getting deep here, but we're just kind of like stuck. Are we trying to fit ourselves in this like society or these like boxes of like jobs and houses and all this stuff? And you kind of realize like this isn't a natural habitat. Like, it's kind of like a natural response to feel off if you're not in our natural habitat doing the things we evolved to do over the last 80,000 years.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's super weird actually when you think about it and you like take a step back and try to have like the perspective of like every other species on Earth is basically like they're doing the same thing that they've been doing for the last like millions of years. And humans, like, we're so weird now. Like, if you saw us like 100 years ago, 50 years ago, 20 years ago, like we just keep becoming like more isolated and like it's just, it is weird. Like we sit on couches and stare at screens. Like we just scroll all day. Like what?
Yeah.
It's, and don't get me wrong, like any working out or any form of exercise is great, but like 30 minutes a day, like that's not what our bodies need. Like we are evolved to move all day, most of the day. So yeah, like it is super, super weird. And I don't think, I don't think it's a coincidence that there's a lot of mental health issues associated with our way of living right now as a collective. And I was watching Into the Wild. Have you seen that movie?
Yeah.
And that's just like a perfect example of like going against the grain and just how you can live a life with so much purpose and have such great stories with literally no money. So, I'm not recommending or suggesting anyone goes and does that to that. That's quite an extreme example, but I think my biggest thing, and I try to tell myself this gets me through a lot of like dark or shitty times or times that I'm stressed, is just like, if you live your life, like it's going to be a book at the end of your life. Like there has to be a lot of shitty times, and there has to be a lot of like things you have to get through, and for it to be a good book, like, there's going to be shitty chapters and there's going to be like great chapters. And, but I personally try to live my life that way. It's just like, instead of it just being like one long chapter, I'd rather just, I want to split life into a bunch of different chapters. I was even telling my friends, like, I try to live a full lifetime, like every decade, because when your time comes, whether it be like, you're 29 and you're diagnosed with cancer, or, you're 43 and have a heart attack, or you get in a car accident at, 50, like, you don't know when your time's coming, but you better feel like you lived a full life and a fulfilled life and a happy life, like when that time does come. And that's my mission. That's my goal.
I think that's beautiful and wise, man. And that's something that I've noticed a lot too, with going back to the outdoors thing. Is like, I always feel like I lived that day. I know that sounds kind of weird, or like I didn't waste the day. If I was outside for a period of time that day and I was really just alone with myself, my thoughts, my dogs, whatever, like I look at the environment, I just feel, and like I'm connected to it, I feel like I lived that day, Like we've all had those days where we we scroll and we don't do much of anything, or whatever our case is, or whatever situation. You know, and you just feel like every day blends the same. But like, if you feel like you lived during that day, like that's pretty special. And I think what you're saying is awesome, and it's true. Like, if you feel like you can live every day, like that's pretty special life.
That's well said. Yeah. I think it's easy to recall those days that you spend outside in nature. Like it's easy to go back after time has gone by and you can like recall each of those days because you lived. But it's hard, and then also, like you said, all the other days of like watching TV and scrolling, which like, fuck, like I do too. I'm no different, but it's just like those days blend together, and like you don't remember those days. And it's like, if that's mostly what you're doing, then what? You're not going to remember most of your life. Like, and that scares me because all of that time adds up. Like, sure, like, 1, 2, 3 days a week, like that doesn't seem like much when you're spending like a few hours each of those days, like scrolling or on TV. It's like that adds up, and we're going to really regret. I feel like we're going to really regret it, when we're on our deathbed. We should be out, moving our bodies like we're meant to be doing.
100%.
Yeah.
And I think it even like, I think you realize that too when you go through things like, what you've been through and stuff, like you dealing with death, like you understand more about life, like and then you must have like continually dealing with death at such a young age. Like you just understand like I'm gonna die, people are gonna die, like nothing. That's what the first sort of things I realized was like nothing is guaranteed. Like you go through life when you're like a kid and just think, oh, like there's my friends and there's my parents and whatever family, they'll be here forever, they're here now, they'll always be here, right? But you realize like that's not the case at all, and that's not the case with you too. So it's like you have this new appreciation of life. Like it can be depressing because you don't want to feel that pain, you don't want to see people you love die, but you have a new appreciation for those people and for your own life and for your own time here while you got it.
Yeah, no, you nailed that, man. I think every single time you lose someone, like you just gain even more appreciation for life. And I think a lot of people like everyone experiences like their first death of like a loved one, or and more often than, well, I shouldn't even say that. Usually it's a lot older with natural causes, right? But if it's a younger death, more often than not, like it's a traumatic event. And yeah, I mean, no matter, like every death is very hard to go through. But I personally would say it's a lot more difficult to go through a suicide from a young best friend than, someone that's losing your grandparents, where like they've lived a full life. You can prepare for it. You can prepare for it with them. They're not just ripped away from you like that.
Yeah.
And that's scary. Like I think about Josh, for example, like being 12, like the guy never had his first kiss. Like he never drove a car. Like he never got to go to college. Like he never got to have a wife, like your kids. Like it's just crazy. Like how much life, is left, like even when you think it's done. Like that's how I felt on that mountain. Like I was like, it's done. Like this was life. Like it was sweet. Like, but there is so much, like, and like I'm still going to go through hard times, and like I'm still going to go through like whirlwinds of depression. Like I've realized now it's not going to go anywhere. It's just how you deal with it and what tools you've gained from past experiences, and applying those, down the road when that depression comes back. That's what's going to get you through it, and that's what's going to make it easier. But yeah, that's the beautiful thing about life, is you don't know what it's going to bring you. So my life can completely change in 4 years. Like you just don't know. It is a beautiful thing, and I think yeah, we're all very, very lucky to get to live life, like be alive, as cheesy as it sounds.
No, I agree with you, man. And I think like that's a perspective that yeah, that needs to get out. Like, and yeah, I don't know. Like it's something that you realize, like we said, when you go through these terrible things sometimes, it's almost like you wish you could just give that feeling to someone else,
Yeah,
give
I
that
mean,
give
and
that understanding.
totally. There is. I have a few friends where I'm trying to explain my depression, and you can tell like they want to know, but they genuinely don't know what it's like, and it's hard to explain. Um, for me, like I was kind of saying, like when depression does come knocking, like depression, especially when you get to the point of suicide, like you're fighting against yourself. Like there's a small part of you that's just begging for like yourself to give another chance, but the other like the monster's overpowering you, and it's scary. Like I get suicidal thoughts less often now, but every time they do come, it becomes stronger, and that's kind of scary. um but I think it, like what I do tell my friends is like I hate a sad life more than I love a happy life.
Yeah.
um
Wow.
when life's good, it's awesome. Like I want to live a happy life, and I want to live old, and I want to live doing the things I love, but um it terrifies me to potentially live a sad life, or a life where you feel like you've failed, and you can't bounce back, and um so that's kind of how it feels sometimes. It's like that life can be good, but the shitty times like outweigh it, and and yeah, so that's when it gets to that point, like that feels like it's your only option is to take your life, and um but the thing is it's not your only option. It feels like it is, but it's not. And um just keep fighting, and just keep grasping for life. Like it it's the saying, just take one step forward, like you will get out of the darkness. And that's kind of what I've learned. um yeah, you just got to keep going.
There is like a big component of resilience, and I like that, like one step forward. And like sometimes I think that could be misunderstood as like being like um like not compassionate to someone's feelings, or or something like that. But it's like you need to have I think first you need to have tools to be able to make yourself feel better, and then you need to be resilient in being disciplined with those tools. And then being disciplined, because it also takes discipline to reach out and ask for help, because the path of least resistance is to bottle it in.
Yeah. um yeah, the tools is super important. And I think you get those. um like it blows my mind, like you can, like how strong like people are, like people that have gone through traumatic events. Like
Yeah.
people are so strong, and it's because you gain something from every loss, and there
Yeah.
is silver linings to everything, and that does fill your toolbox with tools, like you said. um for me, I look at it like this run across Canada. I look at it as like the metaphor. Like there's gonna be good days and there's gonna be bad days, and I'm gonna just have to trust my training that I put in. I'm gonna have to trust the tools that I gain, which is essentially the training. And um, when I feel like I'm at, my only option is to give up, which I guarantee there's going to be times where like I question what the hell I'm doing, and then I can just stop and I can just quit and the pain will be done. But trusting in, you know, everything that I've endured to get me through it, like that, to me, that it mirrors my battle with depression like perfectly. And sometimes that's the best way to explain it to people.
Yeah.
So this run across Canada to me is very much what depression looks like to me as well.
So let's get into the run. So at what point in the last 5 years did you start running? And then you said you got into ultra running, which is even more like, what has your journey been with like running and leading into what you're going to do?
Yeah. So playing soccer up until I was 20, I attribute a lot of my, I feel like I attribute a lot of my running success to that, because you build a good base, regardless if you think you're going to use it for marathon running or not. Like an average soccer player runs like 10 kilometers a game. So you are getting a lot of running in. I always was very inspired by Terry Fox. Just, obviously what he did, dying of cancer with one leg, doing a marathon a day, like that's incredible. That just shows like no excuses. Guy's literally dying running a marathon a day.
Wow. Yeah.
And then seeing what he did for such a good cause, that I thought that was very, that was very great. And so part of me too, aside like from the mental health, I think just seeing like Canada coast to coast, is we live in such a beautiful country. So getting to do that, I always thought that would be cool. Running across the country, even when I was a little kid, I thought maybe that would be something I would maybe try to do one day. But last September is when I like finally committed to doing the cross Canada run. So not too long ago, to be honest, like just over half a year ago.
Yeah. Wow.
But to kind of go back on that ultra thing with the mountains, like the mountain hikes kind of turned into, I kind of touched on how I would get competitive with myself. Like how fast can I do this? And, if I'm doing a mountain that I've done previously, I want to like, be faster than like my time before. And that just eventually led into just running, and just kind of understanding the scene. Like I just remember when I got into hiking, I was like, people run up mountains, like that's a thing, like that's crazy. And then you just kind of become part of that, and then you realize it's like, oh, people run farther than a marathon. Like I didn't know that you could do that. Like that's insane. Like about 2 years ago is when I found out about like 50K runs and 100K runs, and there's 240-mile runs. It's insane.
Wow.
So
so many miles.
Just insane. So a whole new world that I was kind of exposed to, and you could see just the determination these people had. And I'm not like the most skilled athlete, or I'm not like the most athletic by any means. I'm not the fastest. I never was, like even playing soccer, but I do recognize that like my mental strength is an asset, and I do attribute that to a lot of the tough times I'd gone through when I was younger. So there's no giving up, no question, like ever. For me, I think about times what my friends must have been going through when they did take their life. Like that's hard.
Yeah.
Like that's,
Yeah.
if my legs are sore, like I'm fucking fine. Like if I'm breathing, I'm fine. If I can talk, like I'm fine. So just kind of taking those tough times and reminding yourself when you are, you do want to give up potentially, or, your mind's playing tricks on you. You just got to keep reminding yourself why you're doing it. And for me, it's Josh and Eli. Like that's that. Yeah, those guys keep my legs moving. Like there's no quit. And that's 100% due to those two guys.
That's so awesome, man. That's like, it's something I thought about too, and not necessarily to running, but it was my girlfriend that committed suicide. So that was when I was 20, and like I remember going through like the worst of it. And I was going through like a couple other things. I had some health issues and stuff. And it was like just like the lowest I've ever been in my life in every way. And I kept thinking to myself, like, this is bad, but I'm still don't want to kill myself. It's still not as bad as it was for her, as bad as it was. And like, I was having thoughts like that. I was depressed as fuck. I was like in the worst spot I've ever been in, like the darkest of my own personal hell. And I was like, it's still not as bad as her. So it's just like, yeah, I think that's really awesome, because I think you get motivation, and it puts things in perspective, like what real pain really is,
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. Yeah. We've both been through dark times, but we're still here. So we don't know what that, not that our pain doesn't hurt, and not that our bad times don't matter, but it clearly wasn't as bad as theirs. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, it's incredible how much hurt and how much pain people carry without realizing.
Yeah.
You can pass someone on the sidewalk walking, and they might take their life that day. Like, you don't know. And it just goes to like treat people like with kindness, like treat them like that hello can change their life. Like, you hear stories like that, right? Like,
yeah.
I remember like this story, like in high school, like this kid was like going home to kill himself, and he dropped his books everywhere, and this kid helped him pick his books up, and that's all it took for this kid to still be here. Like, it's such little things. And especially right now with the pandemic and the state of everything, like everyone's going through mental health struggles, and something as small as opening a door for someone, or just saying thank you, or like those things go a long way, especially right now. But
I
yeah,
100%
man,
agree. Yeah.
it's crazy how much hurt that people are carrying, and we don't realize it. We don't.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and that's the whole reason why I wanted to do this podcast. And I think it's amazing what you're doing, is just bringing awareness to it, like sharing in these conversations like this, like, because it's like this kind of thing where it's like it's in the dark, and we all, like, I have the exact same perspective as you do, where I think it's on a spectrum, where it's like, like maybe someone doesn't understand like depression or anxiety or whatever the case may be, but like they're going to experience that on some spectrum, or they're going to have something come up later in their life, or they have experienced something different. We all have mental health the same as physical. It's just about it's on a spectrum of how healthy you are at that time, how you maintain it.
Yeah.
And it's such a dance to maintain it.
That analogy actually, like, yeah, the physical, yeah, that really stuck with me actually. Yeah, some people, and there's no shame in it. It's just like, think about it. Like, some people have bad shoulders, so you can like work on it to try to make it better. So
yeah,
if you have a brain that's like struggling, like you can work on it. And some people have no shoulder problems, and they have no problem. Like, everything's mint. And likewise, people have some people just have brains, and I'm happy for them. I'm so happy for them. I don't want anyone to go through mental health struggles. But yeah, some people just have brains that don't they don't have to go through a lot of the struggles that a lot of us have to go through. So yeah, the spectrum, well said. And hopefully that kind of makes sense to people that are listening too. It's not
It
black
is like,
and white.
yes, 100%. It is physiological too. I mean, like cortisol, blood pressure, stress, like leads to like cancers and like, you know, like just, it's a whole, it's one and the same. And that's kind of how I like to look at it. It's just the same thing. Like if you're depressed and anxious and you can't go be social with your social group and you can't get out and go for a walk, like that's going to make you unhealthy, you know. If you're
Yeah.
like chronically depressed, like you're going to be like, they're one and the same, you know.
Yeah. If you have an injured leg, you have to rehab it. Like,
Yeah,
it's how I look at it, you know, as coming from the athletic side of things too. Like that's how I have to make a lot of my analogies. But yeah, one thing that I do want to talk about is, because we're kind of on the topic, is it blows my mind, and this is kind of like my mission. I'm gonna I want to make a big difference, and I'm gonna need the help of everyone to do it for like our healthcare system. Like it blows my mind that like our mental health is on like the bottom of the priority list in
yeah,
our country. Like, you know, you can go in, like if you, it's great. Like if you break your arm or your leg, like, you know, you're fine, right? Like we're really lucky.
yeah,
But if you have a super bad morning, like, you know, with, you know, if you're going through suicidal thoughts, like it's not that simple. You can't just
yeah,
go and get that tended to. And, um,
yeah,
you know, you can get prosthetic arms and prosthetic legs, and, you know, the list goes on. But you can't get another brain. And
yeah,
somehow mental health is on the bottom of the priority list. So
yeah,
that's my rant. And I don't think a lot of people realize that. And that's kind of the reason I'm saying it is, there needs to be changes with that.
yeah,
You know, I don't, there's a lot of people don't know what like being in a mental health unit in a hospital is like. And it's not great. Like I've been there. And yeah, the changes need to be made. Like there's people that beg for their life saying that they're suicidal in the emergency room, and there's no beds to admit them. Like
yeah.
they're there, they're doing everything right, fighting for their life, and they're getting turned away. And
And it's
that's
like
this.
it was hard for them to even get there too. Like a lot of times it's like
Yeah.
it's like so hard to get there, and it's like, fuck, I'll just go then. I'll just go. Like it's like they don't want to go, and then they get there, and then it's like they turn you away.
And then you hear your only option, you know, taking your life isn't your only option. It's like, well, it fucking is, because I've done everything else and I'm fighting and no one's helping me. So it's
Yeah,
heartbreaking. Like,
yeah,
yeah, why, you know, you muster up the support from people, and you muster up the courage to go and admit yourself, and
yeah,
then you get turned away. Like, why would you go and do that again? Like
yeah,
and it's super, super sad. And, you know, yeah, it's tough. Like, I'm pretty privileged. I'm pretty lucky. Like when I went there, I had, you know, support from my friends and my family. And, you know, I had friends that were ordering me like skip the dishes, and like I would order skip the dishes. Like I'm in a situation I can do that. But a fun fact for you is that it's the same food supplier as the prisons. So
yeah,
people that are eating food in hospital, I mean, it's for all units, not just mental health, but it's like, but what gets me is that there could be someone who's in the mental health unit trying to go, you know, work out their trauma from being molested as a kid, and their pedophile is in prison eating the same meal as them. Like it just doesn't, that's for
no,
some, that sits well with someone, I guess, who makes those decisions, and, you know, higher up, so they can line their pockets a bit more, saving money. And you realize these things when you're in the mental health unit, and it's crazy. Like,
yeah,
but so what I want to do say is the mental health unit, if you can get in there, there is a lot of beneficial things. For me, I did get to talk to a psychiatrist, got to spend a lot more time, you know, than just going to a general practitioner who just, you know, writes you a prescription for antidepressants or whatever medication it may be. They actually take the time to like diagnose you and get to know you. And you know, there's programs like group programs, like learning on, you know, other ways to manage your mental health struggles. Like, for example, I learned holding a cold bag of water or ice to your forehead over your eyes for 20 seconds will like lower your heart rate dramatically. And I remember we were in like the group thing, and I was like, this is bullshit. Like, I don't, this is dumb. And it worked. So like, yeah, like there is benefits. And I think if you're feeling suicidal, please like go to the hospital. It isn't sitting in a room with white walls until those thoughts go away. They actually do take the time to work with you and make you better before you leave, and giving you tools to use so you don't have to come back. But it's just a shame that like, you can't just go and access that whenever you want. It's so yeah, and that's just what needs to change.
Yes, I think, and you mentioned before too, I think the big problem is beds as well, right? I'm in Prince Edward Island, and that's a huge problem here, where there's only like, I don't know what the number is. It's like 12 or 16 beds or something, and it's always full. So like, to not have the option if their beds are full, I mean, that's just like, people need it. And there's been stories here, and I'm sure everywhere in Canada, in the world, really, just people get turned away. Recently there was a young girl that got turned away, and she ended up killing herself a few days later.
Yeah, and like that's so like, that's heartbreaking. But is it surprising? It's like she went there for a reason, and she didn't get the help she needed. Like, that's so sad. Yeah, like if you had a heart attack, like they would help you.
Yeah. They
wouldn't turn you away and let you die. So yeah, lots of changes that do need to be made, and it's literally going to take a nation to fight it. It's wild.
Yeah. I think it is a complex problem too, because it's like, there's so much, like, you need so much attention and care to really be able to like heal, like from like psychiatrist, kind of down to like a counselor, therapist, and like to be able to develop these skills and to be able to kind of like reassess your life. Like, a lot of people, like, everyone's on the spectrum of like assessing even what's going on. Like, you may even go to like the hospital and like you don't even know why you're feeling this way. Like, just think back into like that point where you went to the mountain. Like, maybe you didn't even assess what was going on. You just been drinking for years, and I feel like a lot of people are there, or they don't even, like, they're kind of like asleep, where it's like they're doing all these things, screens, all like, you know what I mean? They haven't had that like awakening yet, where they realize why they're feeling bad. And I think like there's so much like top to bottom to be able to cover the bases, and like it's super interesting. I don't think it's impossible, but I think it's a big challenge to be able to like cover all those bases. And like, I think maybe I've been thinking lately, like addictions and recovery centers, like there's a lot of like therapeutic aspects to it, where you go in and then I don't know, like there's
like a team to help you, right?
There's like a team, and you go through a process. It's like the 12-step process, where like you kind of identify you have a problem. Like, I think there's like I'm kind of speaking like about things I'm not 100% aware of here, but like I think like there'd be a better way to go about it. I think like almost like more of like a real rehabilitation center for people would be better.
Exactly a great way to word it. Like, you do need to rehab. It's no different. Like, it's your brain is a body part. Like, you do need to rehabilitate it. And that's the thing. We need to start looking at our mental health, like our normal health. Like, it's more important. So why aren't we making it more important? Like,
and I often think like I had a guy on this podcast who's doing great things here on PEI. His goal is he sells salt. So it's called he's actually sponsored the podcast. So I'm going to send you salts later on after
Sweet.
the podcast.
What's his company?
It's called the Prince Edward Island Sea Salt Company.
Sweet.
So his goal is to like take it in the hands of like the private sector, and not the whole thing obviously, but like he's basically doing like 40% of all proceeds go to back into mental health programming on PEI. And then it's like he's like kind of he was like a business guy in Toronto and he moved here, like grew a bunch of successful businesses and then came back here. And his whole goal is to be able to like, okay, where's this money going and what's the best way we can use it, kind of thing. Opposed to maybe the government that doesn't always do that. But I think like even if it's private, like I think just more options, like even like a rehab, like the same way you go to physio, like just a mental health like rehabilitation center where like you can practice these tools, like anything we can do to kind of start to rehabilitate like everybody, get everybody the chance to do it. Like, you know, there's a lot of good apps coming out now with like making like more affordable counseling and stuff, but
Yeah.
like the more we can normalize it and stuff.
And that's just it, normalizing it. I think it's going to take a lot of little things. Like, for example, like I want to get local businesses, local restaurants here in Calgary, and like I'd love to do for the whole hospital, obviously, but do like a lunch for the mental health unit, like one day or like 1 week. Yeah, you're not going to change the world like with one thing or in like one day, but like you can do a bunch of little things. But the thing with that too is just like when you do these little things, it breaks the stigma and it brings awareness, because these restaurants that are going to collab or, you know, do this, they might not realize that like what the mental health unit is like. They might not realize that it's the same, you know, food supplier as the prisons. And like getting more and more people talking about, you know, that and the issues that are associated with our healthcare system in relation to mental health, like getting more people aware of that is how there's going to be a change. It's a big snowball effect.
100%. Yeah.
And yeah, just doing a bunch of little things, that's going to make a massive snowball. And eventually it's going to make, it's going to grab attention. So yeah. And people are going to benefit from it, which is the most important thing. So yeah, whether it be a $2 donation to, you know, a local like mental health charity, or, you know, buying the mental health unit lunch, like those things add up.
Yeah. 100%, man. Yeah, and like I love what you said too about the small things. It's like if we all just did that small thing that's we can do, that's in our control, that's how things change.
Yeah. I mean, if you're someone might be struggling with, you know, someone that sees a nice thing put forward like that, maybe someone close to them who's struggling with mental health feels like they can open up with them because they saw that kind gesture. Like there's so many things that can come together from something so simple, and it makes you feel good. Like people like doing good things. So I mean, doing these things is good for your mental health too.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a snowball. Like you said, like if someone feels comfortable to open up to you, maybe you feel comfortable to open up to someone else, like just like, and then it becomes more and more
normal,
common.
And hopefully
normal,
this whole mental health is like, this is just, you know, going in for a checkup like normal. Like that's the goal, right? Is to just, yeah, not be in the dark. You mentioned that, like a lot of us just feel like we're in the dark. We're waiting to see how other people, you know, more people are coming out of that darkness, and I think people are more curious about the options that are out there.
Yeah. I think the internet is an extremely powerful tool. Like, you know, obviously we're doing it right now. I mean, it's pretty amazing we can do this like across the country, but I see like a big, like with our generation, I see like a big kind of shift to this like self-awareness, self-growth, and mental health awareness, like those kind of three things, especially on social media. I see a lot of that. And I think that's so awesome that people are turning that leaf and and becoming like going down that road. It's kind of what I talked about earlier, is like having like the spiritual awakening. And I know that might sound kind of cheesy, but it's what it is. It's like understanding what life is.
Yeah, I think our generation's doing a great job at normalizing, I guess, mental health struggles, and we're doing a good job at helping, you know, older generations. You know, I'm proud of the older generations as well. Like, you know, kind of accepting mental health struggles, like recognizing their own, and, you know, talking about it and supporting others. Yeah, we've come so far in such a small amount of time, and that's great.
100%. So leading into this run, like how many ultras have you done, and like what's your training regimen leading into this, what you're going to do? I have so many questions. Like how many kilometers are you going to run every
let's
day?
get into the running for sure. So for the run, I'm running between 55 and 60 kilometers a day. So
holy shit, man.
So an ultra by definition, so a standard traditional marathon is 42.2 kilometers. An ultra by definition is anything just longer than that in distance. So typically ultras start at like 50 Ks, and then there's 50 milers, and then like 100 Ks, 100 milers, 200 milers, and so on. So yeah, I like it because at a certain point, it just becomes mental. The physical, it comes to who has the strongest mind. And yeah, who stayed the most dedicated and consistent with their training. So yeah, the running part it's going to be a massive challenge. I'm very confident with it though. You know, I know that there's going to be those bad days and those good days. I think just going into it, acknowledging, you know, the hardships that are going to go through that. And that kind of goes with your other question, like how many ultras have I ran? And I guess I would say like around 15, which is very small compared to like, because for the Canada run, it's like 130 ultras. So yeah, it's a massive jump, but I've done a few things to kind of test and see like where I'm going to stand with the Canada run. So I committed to the Canada run when I did my first 100K last September. And my idea is like, okay, if I can get through like 100K, and this is my first 100K, try to do it in 13 hours, then I'll be able to do the Canada run, like the 55 to 60 kilometer distance. I can do that every day. And so I did the 100K run, and then you know, I went and hiked like a mountain like 2 days later. So that for me was that was massive. Like that I was like, okay, I felt like I leveled up in the sense of like what my goals are going to be and like what I can do. So I fully committed to the Canada run at that point.
How long does it take to run 100 kilometers? What was your time?
It was 13 hours, 6 minutes. So yeah, that was like a pace of like, I think it was like a 7-minute, 40-second kilometer pace. There's like a 10-minute train.
Shit.
At my goal, I wanted to get under 13 hours, and there's like a 10-minute train in Banff. Like everyone, like my crew that was with me were just like, I was on like kilometer 80 at that point, and everyone was just shaking their heads. They're like, this is literally the longest train we have ever seen in our life. Like, this is what are the chances? Like I was like cramping up, and so yeah, I ended up missing my goal by like 6 minutes, but I don't use the train as an excuse. I should have made the time up. And then in January, I took part in a 24-hour challenge where the premise was, you know, you'd have teams of like up to 6 people, and you take turns running, and whatever team at the end of the 24 hours has the most distance covered gets to pick like the charity that the proceeds go to. So my friend Connor, he organized it. We ended up raising like over $1,000. So really good initiative and competitive. But Connor and I were talking, and I was like, I might just do it by myself. And he's like, yeah, man, like go for your first 100 miler. So that was January. The run was January 24th, and our winters out west were like pretty chill this year. Like this was the nicest winter I've ever experienced. It was like -5 degrees Celsius, except 2 hours before the start of this 24-hour run, which was at 12 p.m. Mountain time. So 10 o'clock at night, 10 p.m. Mountain time. It started snowing and like polar vortex came in. So that 24-hour run was -25 degrees the entire time.
Holy fuck, man.
Like
Holy fuck.
It was a whole different level of mental grind. Like that one, yeah. When I realized I was running in that and looking at the forecast and seeing that it wasn't letting up for like 14 days, let alone 24 in the next 24 hours. I didn't even care about the distance. I just wanted to survive that -25 while still doing the 24 hours.
Wow.
So we did it. We ran from Calgary to Red Deer. Fucking crazy. I was like wearing a parka and like 5 layers. And yeah, my homies, Chris and D, they were with me for the first part, and it was hilarious. Like, and actually it was sweet. Like D ran his first 50K and Chris ran his first half marathon. So it was super cool and inspiring to see them, reach their like really big milestones as well. Like that kept me motivated. But I would get to the car like expecting like, them to put like a drink in my hand or like food because I'm dying. And it's like they're on the side of the highway like sleeping. I'm like, oh my God, like this is insane. So yeah, and then like my buddy Matt, he joined at like 7 a.m. This would have been like 9 hours after I started, and I was at around kilometer 65, I think, kilometer 70. I was going really slow. Yeah, he put in a shift. Like he ran 70K, and like
Wow.
he ran his first time running 10K was 3 months prior.
Wow.
Like
dude, he just kept going. That's crazy.
It was wild. So I'm very grateful for like my crew. Like the thing with ultras is like it's the farthest thing from an individual sport. Like your crew is keeping you going, they're keeping you motivated, they're keeping you fueled. They're the reason they get done, the ultras get finished, honestly. So and when you're racing competitively, they can be the difference between winning and losing. So yeah, it's pretty wild. Like there's photos of like me on a foam roller on the 100K at like kilometer 85 with my mom like spoon feeding me like yogurt, and I'm just trying to get like, I had like 5 minutes, and it was just like get as many calories in it and like stretch as much as I can within 5 minutes, and get back out. So it's the whole day is pretty much carnage, but you come out so strong mentally, and yeah, I think if you can run an ultra, you can run life. So
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so wild, man. Like, so what's your diet like, and what will your diet be like for this this trek across the whole country? Like, how are you taking like carb gels? Are you like what are you doing? You just eating everything?
Let's dive into it. Yeah. Honestly, like during training right now, I'm trying to go into a surplus, like I was mentioning. So my cardio is cut down a little bit right now. Ideally, I want my weekly mileage at around 125 kilometers a week. Right now it's like around 50. Focusing on really like strengthening my legs right now. But in the next couple of weeks, we're upping the running more. But for what I eat, well, I have a shake in the morning, and this shake is 1,600 calories. So I have a cup of mixed berries, a can of coconut milk, which is 700 calories, 3 tablespoons of peanut butter, and it's like a lean mass gainer, which is like 30 grams of protein, 50 grams of carbs. I think, no, it's 100 grams of carbs, and like 600 calories. So that all combined, like that's pretty easy to put down. And then I'm always snacking, whether it be fruits, granola bars, nuts. And then I find like sandwiches, you can just like, they're just so quick and easy, but just like filling those with nutrient rich, like veggies, chicken breast, and just getting those calories in. 2 chicken breasts and a sweet potato for dinner, typically. And then throw in like 2 cups of pasta and pasta sauce. That's typically, and like and a lot of yogurt, Greek yogurt. So those are like usually what I'm eating every day. That's a typical day. I try to eat between 4,000 and 5,000 calories right now a day.
Wow. Holy shit.
And then, but then also it's sweet because like I don't worry about like what if it's late, if I was chilling with a friend and like I wasn't home to eat like my chicken breast or whatever, like I'll get burgers and fries. Like I don't I'll eat pizzas. Like for me it's like getting the calories is more important than like not having the calories. So I don't stress out. Like I'm not like super strict. I don't my performance is where I want it to be. But yeah, like on this Canada run, like each day I'm going to be burning, like 6,000 calories likely.
That's what I'm saying. You're gonna have to have a few of those shakes, man. It's like, especially
so
the accumulation.
And sorry, I do have 2 of those shakes a day. So
really?
3,200 calories dedicated just to the shakes. And then like snacks, sandwiches, pasta, and like the chicken breast and sweet potatoes. So yeah, like I'm pretty close to, some days I'm more than 5,000 calories. Like more calories, the better. Like when I'm going grocery shopping, like yesterday I was looking at like pizza sauce. I was like, this one has 5 more calories. Like I'm getting this per serving. So calories are my best friend right now, especially going into the run. I'm going to lose a ton of weight on the run, no matter how hard I try to stay in a surplus. It's just minimizing that deficit every day as much as we can. But yeah, it's exciting. I do have a lot of the gels on the run. So a few of the sponsors, I got like Good to Go protein bars. Those are delicious, and those are like full of carbs, fats, and protein. We got like Ener Cheese, which is like a protein cheese company. Got a meal prep company out of Calgary, so like I get like actual meals. And then there's a few more just like kind of snacks. And there's been amazing people that are like, let me buy like you a meal kind of thing, like on this day or whatever. So
oh wow.
Yeah, I feel like the food and the fuel is definitely covered for the Canada run at this point. I think we have all our bases covered, which is, that, and the vehicle is kind of the most, and the crew is the most important thing. So
and who's coming with you?
So I'm splitting into like 5 people, because it's obviously it's hard to have someone commit the whole thing. So yeah, I have 5 different people, and then all of which as well are providing like negative COVID tests as well. So yeah, it's a lot of organizing in that sense, especially with COVID. I'm following like all the provincial regulations and everything, like doing my quarantines where I need to and everything. But hopefully things keep getting better, and these regulations, or these guidelines, regulations kind of slowly disappear, as well as the vaccines. So it'd be wicked to have a vaccine somehow by June 1st. I think that would make things a lot easier. So on my to-do list this week is to actually email the health ministers of like each province and just kind of see, or just kind of tell them what's going on, and like the Atlantic bubble and then Manitoba as well, kind of see if I can just keep going through, because I'm just going to be with my vehicle, and then aside from that, just running. So I feel like I want to be in much less contact on this run than I would be like working a job here in Alberta. So
Are you you're sleeping in the vehicle?
yeah, so we're trying to get an RV or camper van sponsor. Talking to a few this week, so hopefully you get that, because the run's only 77 days away or 76 days away. But yeah, like I'm fully prepared to like tent it, like just dirt bag it, sleep in the back of the car. Like that's worst case scenario. I feel like everything will work out. Everything's worked out thus far. But yeah, ideally having a camper van and RV where I can, sleep there, do my run, there's a lot of people that have been, offering to get nights at hotels. So that'd be great for showers and stuff. That's stuff I have to figure out. Like if with the RV, like if it has a shower, like that would be sweet. Otherwise it's likely just gonna be lake baths for 5 months, So it's going to be interesting, but the thing is people have done it. There's crazy people that have done it like self-supplied, like pushing a wagon with like nothing. Like they like run and then like set their tent up, have a shitty sleep, and then do it again the next day. So
wow. Yeah.
Yeah, there's been people that have done it kind of the luxury version, and then there's a lot of people that have done it kind of like the dirtbag version, which I respect that. This one dude from Britain did cross Canada run. He was running in the mountains, which I don't know if you've ever done that drive like from Calgary to Vancouver by chance.
No.
But like super scary, like single lane highways for a lot of it, and like turns with like cliffs. This guy's running it in winter. And like semi trucks are like, it's just like you would never think. You don't even like driving on the road in winter.
Yeah.
Let alone running it with like vehicles that are coming within feet of you, that could kill you at any second. So yeah, I feel like once we get that vehicle situation covered, we're ready to go. So
That's awesome, man. So if people want to help out, people want to support, I know the main goal is to raise $50,000, right?
That's the goal, yeah.
If people want to help out, where can they go?
So you can go to www.milesforsmilescanada, and then there's a tab that says donate, and that takes you right to the Canadian Mental Health Association, like my page with them, where you can see how much has been raised and everything. And when you donate, you get your charitable tax receipt and everything. It's super easy. Also have a GoFundMe. That's to help cover the costs. So, like ferry costs, fuel costs, everything that kind of isn't sponsored. I'm putting, every dollar, every penny to my name down towards this. And then not working as well for those 5 months. So no pressure to donate. And I don't want anyone that is in a tight situation financially to donate. If you want to just share, even just telling your friends, your family, that's amazing and goes a long way. The easiest way is if you go to my social media handles, it's Skylar, Roth-Mac, or Miles for Smiles Canada. I'm sure Matty will put it in the description or put it in the video or whatever, but
for sure.
In my tab there, I have like a link tree, and it can take you to my website or my GoFundMe. That 30-day challenge that's starting in April is there as well. That's a good way to help support me. Super fun challenge. You can win prizes, and proceeds from that go to help the cost of the run. So yeah, the link in my bio on my social media handles is the best way. So thank you very much to those that I would consider that.
Are you going to be updating your social medias while you're doing this?
gonna be super active on the social media. You know, I'm trying to be active right now, but with all the planning, it's a little bit on the back burner. But once all the planning is done and the run is on, like we'll be going live. We'll be doing basically hour updates. You know, cool videos of everything that we see, cool places. I'm a big foodie, so I'll share like lots of you know, good places to eat along the Trans Canada, and
Nice.
yeah, just, you know, showing our country off and keeping everyone updated on where I am, how I'm doing, and yeah.
That's so awesome, man. I can't wait to watch you do this and check in. I'll be sure to keep sharing your shit, man. I think this is really awesome. I want to say thanks so much for coming on and
Oh man,
sharing.
thank you.
And,
it was great talking with you and diving in and just being vulnerable and open. I think that's the biggest thing. That's what I love about your podcast. So yeah, it's a pleasure, man. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And as I mentioned earlier, sponsors the Prince Edward Island Sea Salt Company. So I have a box here. We got 4 different kinds of sea salt. So I'm going to send this in the mail to you.
Oh wow,
Said
thank
you're
you.
foodie. We got 4 different kinds of cooking salts. Delicious. We'll send those to you in the mail.
Awesome. I will be sure to tag them in my attempted meals.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too.